Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome back, guys, to the very first lesson on the art of recitation. Today, we are going to be talking about the articulation, the pronunciation of each letter in Arabic. We are going to talk about the Harkaat, the Ashba'i Harkaat, which are also called standing Harkaat. We're going to understand how the Tanween works, what is Jazm, Sakin, Tashdeed, Mushaddid. These are all very basic things. So we are going to learn all of them. We are going to learn how to recognize them and how to pronounce them. So this is going to be the lesson today. Without wasting any time, let's jump into the lesson. So these are all the letters of Arabic. These are called Arabic alphabets. And we are going to learn how to pronounce each of these alphabets, each of these letters. So what we're going to do is I am going to recite each haraf, letter or alphabet, and you are going to repeat after me and practice. So the first haraf is alif. Repeat after me. Alif. Ba. Ta. Tha. Now with this haraf or alphabet, we have to make sure that the sound does not mix with seen. So seen has a whistling sound, but the tha, it is recited very softly. So we have to make sure that there's a very subtle difference between these two letters. We have to make sure that we take care of that subtle difference and we differentiate these two letters. So we are going to recite tha. It is recited very softly. Tha. Jim. Ha. Now with this letter, there's also another letter which is ha. So we have to make sure that ha and ha are differentiated. So ha is basically pronounced from the center of your throat. If you touch your throat, you would feel ha, ha. So you have to practice this word. Then we have kha, dal. Now with this dal, there's also another letter which is dad. So dad is a bold letter, while dal is not the bold letter. Dal. Now this is also a softly pronounced letter. Do not mix with za. Za has that whistling sound. So dal. 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 Ra. Za. Now this has that whistling sound in it. Za. Seen. Sheen. Sad. Dad. Tha. Dha. Ain. Ghain. Fa. Qaf. Kaf. You also have to make sure that Qaf and Kaf, there's a difference between these two letters. So Qaf is the bold letter. Qaf, Kaf. Lam. Mim. Noon. Waw. Ha. Ha. Hamza. Ya. Ya. So there we go. These are all the alphabets in Arabic language. So if the pronunciation is correct, then it would become very easy. Now let's talk about harakat. So zabar, zair, and pesh are called harakat. We also call them fatah, qasra, and damma. Now the question is, what is zabar or fatah? So zabar is basically this tilted horizontal line at the top of any letter. Zair is the same tilted line, but it is at the bottom of the letter. Similarly, pesh is like a vowel, but it is always placed at the top of any letter. Now the question is, how do we pronounce this? So we have Fatah, Qasra, Damma. Fatah is Zabr, Zair, Pesh. So if we talk about this Alif, we are going to recite it as, if there's a Fatah, we are going to recite it as A, A, I, I, A, I, U. So whatever letter that you have, actually it is going to be a very good practice if you practice this with every alphabet of the Arabic language. For example, we saw in the last slide that we had all these alphabets. So you practice all of them. A, I, U. With Alif, Ba, Bi, Bu. Ta, Ti, Tu. Tha, Thi, Thu. So you practice all of the Harkaat. That's how you pronounce these Harkaat. Now let's talk about Ashba'i Harkaat. We also call them standing Harkaat. Why? Because the Harkaat are standing in this case. So Zabar is basically standing Zabar, or standing Fatah, Damma, Qasra, we call them, is basically a vertical line at the top, vertical line at the bottom, and then there is this a flipped pesh, which we also call ulta pesh in Urdu. So now the question is, how do we recite them? Now when we recite them, let's take the example of Harakaat. When we talked about Harakaat, we said that we are going to recite them as, for example, in this case, if Meme had Harakaat, we would recite it as Ma, Mi, Mu. But in the case of standing Harakaat, we are going to stretch it twice as long as Harakaat. So we are going to recite Ma, Mi, Mu, Ja, Ji, Ju, Ra, Ri, Ru, Da, Di, Du. So you see, we are stretching the letters twice as much as we did in the case of Harakaat. Tha, Thi, Thu. And we also have to make sure that the pronunciation of each letter is correct as well. So we're going to take care of the Harakaat, how much we are going to stretch the letter is important, and how we are pronouncing the letter is also very important. Now let's talk about Tanween. So Tanween is basically, you have 2 Zabar, 2 Zair, 2 Pesh. So we call these, when the Zabar, Zair and Pesh, they come in pairs, we call them Tanween. So how do we pronounce these Tanween? Now let's take the example. For example, we had, if we had only Zabar, we would be pronouncing it as Ma and Ti. But in case of Tanween, we are going to add the sound of Noon. So we are going to recite it as Man, Tin, Zun. So you see, we are just adding the sound of Noon at the end. Tin, Run, Man, Tin, Shan, Din, Jun. So what we do in Tanween is we add the sound of Noon at the end of our pronunciation. So Ma with Zabar and Man with a pair of Zabar. But this is very simple. So now let's talk about Jazm and Sakin. So Jazm is, the symbol is like a flipped C, and it is always at the top of the letter. So we call this Jazm. So Jazm basically means that you are going to combine this letter with the preceding letter. For example, in this case, you're going to combine Za with Ya. So it would become Z, because Za has a Zair. So Z, Khi, Ru, Fu. So this is what Jazm does. It is used to combine the two letters, and the letter that has Jazm is called Sakin. The next topic is Tashdeed. So Tashdeed is basically represented by a W at the top of the letter. It is also at the top of the letter. And the letter containing Tashdeed, we call it Mushaddid. So this is similar to what we previously learned in the case of Jazm. In the case of Jazm, we were just combining the two letters, and there was no Harkaat on the Sakin, meaning there was no Harkaat on the letter that had Jazm. But in this case, there is a Harkaat. So we recite it as Allah. So we are combining Alif and Lam. Al. Now let's look at this example. So this is basically Alif with the Zabar. Then we have Lam with the Jazm. Then we have another Lam with Zabar. So we pronounce it as Allah. So these two Lams, they are combined together. And then we put a Tashdeed and Zabar. So this is basically two Lams. That's why we are going to emphasize while reciting this. Allah. Allah. Because it has two letters in it. Abba, Ibba, Ubba, Azza, Izza, Uzza, Assa, Issa, Ussa. So the emphasis that we are putting on the letter, like Az, the sound Z, we stretch it a little because we want to emphasize on it because this is two letters. A Mushaddid is basically two letters combined into one. So Azza, Izza, Uzza, Amma, like this. Now we are going to practice what we have learned today. But before starting the practice, I want you to pause the video and recite each word by yourself. And of course, I'm going to recite the words, so you can then tally the words whether you have recited correctly or not. So let's start with the first word, that is Fujirat. So we have Tashdeed. Fujirat. We're going to emphasize on Jim. And then there's a Zair. Fujirat. Rat. Fujirat. Burriza. Iyaya. Aydiyahun. So we have Dal and we have Ya with Harkaat. So Di, Ya. Aydiyahun. Aydiyahun. Now let's look at this word. Fassa. Now we have standing harakat here. Fassa. So we are going to stretch the sound of Seen. Fassa biqati. We are not going to stretch the Ba because it has only Zaydin beneath it. So Fassa biqati. But we are going to stretch Seen. Then we have Falmudabbirati. We are going to stretch the Ra. We are not going to stretch Mim because it has only Pesh. Then we have Dal. Falmudabbirati. Husila. Husila. We are going to emphasize on Sad. And we have اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. اهدنا. We have Dal with Zair. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. So we have Ta with Zabar. Then we have عدد. We're going to emphasize on the Dal because it has a Tashdeed. So عدد. عدد. So you have to practice these again and again to get the mastery over it. The more you practice, the better you would get. So practice is the key to everything. So that's it for today's lesson. Inshallah, we are going to meet in the next lesson. Till then, take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.